Okay guys, it's time to get the Friday the 13th franchise reviews back on track. So we're going to review Friday the 13th Part 2. Friday the 13th Part 2 stars Amy Steele and is directed by Steve Miner. Guys, it feels like forever since I reviewed the first Friday the 13th. I don't know what's taking me so long. Oh, actually I do. October. I was just completely filled to the brim in October with 31 Days of October, weekly wrap-ups that I was doing, and then news updates and reviews. It's almost a relief to have a breath of fresh air and to get back to my normal reviewing schedule. And what better than Friday the 13th Part 2, because I love this movie and I've been waiting to review it for you guys. So here we go. So at the end of the first Friday the 13th, Sean Cunningham has confirmed that Jason was not really in the movie. That whole thing with Jason coming out of the water, that was in Alice's mind. So Friday the 13th comes out, it is a monster hit for Paramount, and they want a sequel. And this was a time when sequels weren't that popular with slasher films. Even Halloween 2 had not come out yet. And even Sean Cunningham was like, how are we gonna do a sequel to this? Because, spoiler alert, Jason's mother was the killer in the last movie. And Jason was a figment of Alice's imagination. But Paramount was like, we don't care, let's make Jason the killer, let's move on. So if you're watching Friday the 13th Part 2 and you're trying to connect the dots between that one and the first one, don't even bother because you will get lost and possibly pissed off. At the beginning of the movie, Jason is an adult. And this movie takes place 2 months after the first Friday, where Jason was a child in the water. What's interesting is the actress Adrienne King, who played Alice. She was called to come back, but she didn't have a script. So she showed up on set, didn't even know that she was gonna die at the beginning of the movie. And when she showed up, they didn't even tell her that she was gonna die. So she's going about her day, filming her scenes, not knowing that at the end of the day, she's gonna be dead. I thought that was really interesting. So when you look at all the problems that they had with the script and trying to get some kind of continuity going from the first movie, the second Friday should have been a horrible movie, but it's not. It's actually freaking awesome. First, let's talk about Jason. Jason wears a potato sack in this movie, which is kind of a ripoff of The Town That Dreaded Sundown. But at the time, the potato sack was the only thing that was readily available for them. And when I first watched Friday Part 2 when I was a kid, I had never heard of The Town That Dreaded Sundown. And I really liked that sackhead Jason, because I thought he was creepier than the Jason from Part 3 and on. And still, I think Part 2 is one of the creepiest Friday the 13th movies. I mean, his whole demeanor is different too. I mean, he's wearing overalls. He's more of like a hillbilly killer than anything. And there's more of a sadness to his character, because at the end, when the final showdown happens and Jeannie dresses up like Jason's mother, and there's kind of a tender moment there because he seems like a child at that moment. Another thing I really like about Part 2 are the characters. And I'll just go ahead and say the characters in the first 4 Fridays are great characters. They're likable. They're not too over the top. The acting isn't too bad, except for 3. 3 does have some pretty damn shaky acting. But the biggest thing is they're all relatable. They're not beauty queens. I mean, sure, there are some really pretty women there, like Kristen Baker, but there are some average people to kind of offset that. But these characters feel like somebody that you could go to camp with, you could hang out with, that you could shoot the shit with. So ultimately, when they're picked off, you kind of care about them. Also really like the kills in this one. I mean, every Friday movie's got awesome kills in it. But Part 2 has a couple of notable kills that I'd like to talk about. First of all, my favorite kill out of the whole franchise is in Part 2, and it's the wheelchair kill. Because that's just a really cold way to kill somebody. I mean, the guy's in a wheelchair. He gets hacked in the face with a machete and then pushed down some stairs. It's just horrible. And also there is the famous sex shish kebab kill, where you got a couple having sex in a bed, and then Jason takes a spear, goes right through the back of the guy, through the girl, through the bed. Now this is a kill that was actually used in a 70s movie called Twitch of the Death Nerve. But Sean Cunningham states that this is not something that he knew about when they were making the movie. But if you look at the 2 scenes, they are strangely familiar. Finally, I really love the final showdown in this movie. It's one of the better final showdowns out of all the Friday movies. And part of that is because of Amy Steele. Amy Steele is the most liked final girl, arguably, out of the whole franchise. There's just something about her. She has a charisma to her, but in the end, she defends herself, and she actually has to use her brain, use her wits to take down Jason. And I always thought that that was a cool scene where she sees Jason's mother's head. She has to think on her feet real quick, and she decides, I have to become Jason's mother. I have to outwit him because he is really jacked in the head anyway. So I'll use that to my advantage. And that's what she does. And she takes him down. And I thought it was interesting behind the scenes when she hits him in the hand with a machete. The stuntman that was playing Jason, he actually had his hand slit between the fingers down. So he had to go to the hospital and get stitches after that scene. And then he had to come back and keep shooting. If I had to give any cons to part 2, they did leave some of the character arcs unanswered, like the redhead guy. He is at the bar just drinking and having a good time, and then that's the last you see of him in the whole movie. And it is also kind of predictable in some parts, but that definitely doesn't take away from my enjoyment of part 2. Like I said, part 2 is one of my favorites, so I'm definitely going to give it a high purchase worthy. And just a real quick footnote about part 3. Originally, they offered part 3 to Amy Steele. And according to her, the script that they gave her was she was going to be in a mental hospital, and then Jason was going to track her down and pick off people one by one in the hospital. Doesn't that sound really familiar? Yeah, that's Halloween 2. So anyway, guys, in the end, what did you think of Friday the 13th Part 2? Most Friday fans love this movie. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. And actually, guys, I have an Instagram account. I just never market it. But I actually put my Instagram logo down there at the bottom of the screen. So you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So guys, thanks for watching, and Humdrum out.